All right. This would be test 6 review, covering sections 2.1, 2.4, and 2.5. Okay? So the first two questions ask you to find the distance and the midpoint. So all your formulas will be on test, okay? So don't worry about the distance formula, midpoint formula, even the slope formula. They will be on test. So for number 1, the point is -5, -7, and -13, 1. So we're going to take these 2 points and we're going to plug it in to the distance formula. And you should have your your x numbers squared minus, you should have your x numbers subtracted squared plus your y numbers subtracted squared. So that would give us -5 minus a -13. So make sure you do know these two negatives will make a plus. Squared plus your y numbers are -7 minus 1 squared. So, and all of this is under the square root. So -5 plus 13 squared gives us 8 squared. And -7 minus 1 is a -8 squared. And so that's what, 64 plus 64, which will give you the square root of 128. Okay? Make sure you know to have your green table. You need to be able to break down all square roots. So the perfect number, that's the biggest perfect number in 128, is 64. And that would be 64 times 2. So when we take the square root of 64, that gives us 8 on the outside. Square root of 2 stays. So our distance is 8 square root of 2. The midpoint with these same 2 points, you're going to say -5 plus -13 over 2. And you're going to say -7 plus 1 over 2. And so that would give a -18 over 2, which is -9. -7 plus 1 is -6 over 2, which is -3. So the point that's in the middle is -9 comma -3. Make sure you have it in parentheses because it is an ordered pair. Okay? Second, number 2, you have the points 3, -5, and -2, +8. And we're going to do the distance. So to do the distance, we're going to subtract our x's squared plus the subtraction of our y's squared under the square root. So that would be 3 minus a -2. Make sure you know these two negatives make a positive. Squared plus -5 minus 8 squared. And so that would give 3 plus 2, which is 5 squared, plus -5 minus 8 is a -13 squared. And keep in mind, we are squaring these numbers to keep everybody positive, okay? We're trying to keep everybody positive because this is distance. We don't want any negatives because we're not doing any i's. So that would give us 25 plus 169. And when you say 25 plus 169, you get the square root of 194. So use your chart, see if there's a perfect number in 194. And when you start going down that chart, dividing 194 by those perfect numbers, there's not a perfect number in 194. So your distance is the square root now of 194. Don't forget your square root sign. Midpoint, we're going to say 3 plus -2 over 2. and negative 5 plus 8 over 2. So 3 minus 2 gives us 1 over 2. And then negative 5 plus 8 would give us 3 over 2. And they don't reduce, so keep them as fractions. Keep them as fractions. I don't want any decimals. Keep them as fractions. So that would be your distance and midpoint. Okay? The next section asks you to identify the slope and the y-intercept of each linear equation. So on number 3, you have 2x plus 3y equals negative 12. Now, I'm not asking you to do any graphing. This is straight. Put the slope in the right blank. Give me the y-intercept. Put it in the blank. So, I would solve this for y. Put it in slope-intercept form. That would probably be the easiest way to get both of them. So that means I'm going to move my 2x over. That would give me 3y equals negative 2x minus 12. Then I divide by 3. So y equals a negative 2/3 x minus 4. So over on the side, you'll have these same type of blanks on your test. Make sure you put the right number in the right blank, because I will take off if they're backwards. So make sure in the slope blank, you would have negative 2/3, and in the y-intercept blank, you would have negative 4. For your equation is y equals negative x. There's no solving. Y is already by itself. So in the slope blank, make sure you know that slope is negative 1. And in the y-intercept blank, there's not a plus or minus number out here. So that y-intercept is 0. It crosses in the origin. That y-intercept is 0. Number 5, you have x minus 4 equals 0. Red flag, red flag. There is no y. This is an x only line. So I don't have a blank that says tell me what the x-intercept is. Because if I move my little 4 over, then I'm solving for x. And I'm not asking you about the x-intercept. I'm specifically asking you what's the slope and what's the y-intercept. So there's no solving to do here. I'm not going to rearrange it. I'm going to just simply know that all my vertical lines, my x-only lines, their slopes are undefined. That's what you put in that blank, undefined. And the y-intercept is none. There is no y. Don't leave it blank. You simply need to put the words none. Now, I will accept if you put undefined. If that helps you remember, undefined technically means it doesn't exist. So if you put double undefined, undefined slope, undefined y, that means it doesn't have it. Okay? I would take that if that helps you remember. But this is an x-only line. This is a vertical line. It has an undefined slope, undefined y. There is no y. Okay? So there's no point of solving it because I don't have no blank that says tell me what the x-intercept is. I'm not graphing right now. Okay? Number 6, we have 5x minus 2y equals 8. So we're going to solve this for y, put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to move 5x over by subtracting it. And then we're going to divide everybody by negative 2. So y equals, those two negatives make a positive, 5 over 2x, and 8 divided by negative 2 is a negative 4. So in the slope blank, you should have the slope as 5 over 2. And in the y-intercept blank, you would have negative 4. And then 7, you have 3y minus 10 equals 2. Now, hope you notice, this is a y-only line. This is a horizontal line, okay? There is no x. However, I don't have a blank that's even asking you about x. But I do have a blank that says y-intercept. So you do need to solve. You do need to tell me where it's crossing y on this one, because it's a y-only line. So you're going to add your 10 to 2, and that will give you 12. And when you divide it by 3, y is 4. So it's crossing the y-axis at 4. So that is your y-intercept. Put 4. Now you need to know all horizontal lines have a zero slope. Zero slope. So that's what you will put in the slope blank is 0. Not undefined, because they don't mean the same. 0, undefined are two different people. Undefined is X. 0 goes with Y. Okay? Now I do want to caution you, if you were to do your 0 with a line through it, in algebra, that means undefined. That means no solution. So you're telling me that this goes with an X only line. So don't make no 0 and stick a line through it and you tell me that means 0, because that means undefined in the math world. So if you want your answer to be graded as 0, it needs to be a complete circle, nothing done to it. Straight up 0. Okay? And so that's going to conclude that section. 3 through 7 is you being able to give me that slope and y-intercept. Okay? 8 through 13, we are writing the equation of a line. So 8, it says, write the equation of a line that's going to go through the point 5, -2, and it's parallel to 3x minus y equals 1. Parallel to 3x minus y equals 1. Okay? So parallel lines are the same, it's meaning the slopes are the same. They look the same. They move the same. So all I need from this line is its slope. So when I'm in standard form, I can find the slope by doing minus a over b. Keep in mind, a is the number on x, b is the number that's on y. So that would be a -3 over -1. Those two negatives make a +3. So the slope of this line is 3. Parallel means use the same slope. So we're also going to use the slope of 3. Now this line has no more meaning. We still got to find the b that matches this point with the slope of 3. So we're going to take that point and our parallel slope, and we're going to plug it in to find the matching b. So y is -2, m is 3, x is 5 plus b. So -2 equals 15 plus b. We're going to subtract 15, so b is -17. So you're not done here. Now, if you stop here on my test, I'm going to take off because you do not have an equation. You got pieces. You just found b for me. Now make the legitimate equation. So on my line, you're going to put y equals. An equation must have x and y and an equal sign. So you got y equals your x number, which is your m on it. That would be 3x minus 17. So make sure you know your m goes on that x, and then you have plus or minus whatever that b number was. And that's the equation. That's what you'll put on my line. Okay. Number 9. Write the equation that's going to go through the point -12, +7, and it's perpendicular to 4x plus 5y equals 3. 4x plus 5y equals 3. So again, we're looking at this equation to get its slope. Now, we're not going to use the exact same slope because this is perpendicular. Perpendicular lines cross. So their slopes have to be the opposite sign flipped, which is your reciprocal. So find out what his slope is. We're going to do minus a over b. That will give us a negative 4 over 5. So that's the slope for this line. Now I need the perpendicular slope. So keep in mind, perpendicular is going to do the opposite sign. So if he's negative, I need a positive. And then we're going to flip 4/5. I need 5 over 4. Okay? That's a perpendicular slope. So this line, again, has no more relevance. I'm going to use my point, and I'm going to use my perpendicular slope to find the matching B. So the y of my point is 7. My perpendicular M is positive 5 over 4. My x is negative 12 plus B. So you're going to take your calculator and you're going to type this in for multiplication. You're going to say 5ABC4 times negative 12, and that should give you a negative 15. Get B by itself, we're going to add 15. So B equals 22. So our equation would be y equals 5 over 4x plus 22, okay? Now, what if the instructions on this one said, okay, write this one in standard form? So I want you to solve it just like we just did, but I want you to take this answer in slope-intercept form, and I want you to change it to standard. Now, this didn't say it on your review sheet, so I'm saying it during my review recording to remind you that there could be a problem, and it's not could. There's one. There's one problem that I'm going to ask you to write it in standard. So you do need to know how to switch this to standard. So if your equation came out to be y equals 5 over 4x plus 22, first thing we're going to do is multiply by 4 because standard form does not do fractions, okay? So we're going to multiply by 4. That would give us 4y equals, 4's cancel here, leaving 5x plus 88. Next, you're going to move your x in front of your 4y by changing signs. So that would be a negative 5x plus 4y equals 88. And then lastly, according to standard form, the x can't be negative in the front. So you're literally just going to change everyone's signs. So that would make your 5x positive, your 4y negative, and 88 negative. So that would be the answer you put in my blank if I asked you for standard form. Okay? And like I said, there is one. It is on the, when you read it, it's in bold. Do this one in standard form, okay? Just one of them. And so I do want you to know that you're going to clear out your fraction, move x, and if you move it and it's negative, change everybody's signs. Okay? Number 10, it says, write the equation of a line that's going to go through the point 7, negative 4, and it's parallel to x equals negative 7. So this is a special line, okay? It only has one variable. This is a vertical line, okay? So vertical lines, if it says parallel, I need you to give me another vertical line. So that would simply just mean another x only line. So your equation would have to be x equals positive 7. X equals positive 7. Okay? 11, write the equation of a line that's going to go through the 0.61, and negative 2.5. So here you have 2 points. So you're going to have to find the slope first. Okay? I didn't give you the slope just out as m equals this, or you had to take the equation and find it. You're going to have to find it by doing the formula. So the slope formula says you're going to subtract your y's over your x's. So my y numbers would be 1 minus 5 over my x numbers, which would be 6 minus a negative 2. Make sure you know those two negatives are going to make a plus. So that would give me negative 4 over 8, and that's going to reduce to negative 1/2. So your slope is negative 1/2. Okay? Now you just pick a point. It doesn't matter if you do the first one or the second one. I'm going to use the first point. So you're going to take your point and your m and plug it in to find b. So my y is 1, m is negative 1/2, x is 6 plus b. So we got 1 equals, when you multiply negative 1/2 times 6, that should give you a negative 3 plus b. To get b by itself, you're going to add 3. So you have b equals 4. So your equation, what you're going to put on my line, is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4. Okay? 12. Write the equation of a line that's going to go through the point 13, negative 6, and it's perpendicular to x equals negative 4. Again, this is a special line, okay? Perpendicular means it's going to have to cross. So you need to give me the opposite variable. So if I gave you an x line, you need to give me the y line. So that equation would just be y equals negative 6. And 13. Write the equation of a line that's going through the point 9, 11, and it has a slope of 2/3. So this is just straight plug in to y equals mx plus b. So our y number is 11, our m is 2/3, x is 9 plus b. Type that in, 2ABC3 times 9, and we should get 6 plus b. Get b by itself, we're going to subtract. So b equals 5. So the equation you're going to put on my line is y equals 2 over 3x plus 5. So keep in mind, unless it's a special equation such as y equals negative 6, or the other one we had where x equals 7, they only have one variable. But everyone else, in order for it to be an equation, you must have an x and a y. So if you leave those off, I'm taking off. Make sure you have the right variables in your final answer. Okay? 14 and 15 is finding the slope. So the slope formula is there on the test. You have the points 0, negative 9, and 3, negative 9. Now, I hope that you notice you have the same y. So this slope should be 0. Because that means if I have the same y number, that means they're on the same line, meaning that y is that's a horizontal line. And all horizontal lines have a 0 slope. So the slope is 0. But I will show the plug-in for finding the slope. And that would be negative 9 minus a negative 9. Keep in mind those two negatives make a plus. Over 0 minus 3. So on top you would have 0 over negative 3, and 0 on top of any fraction is 0. If you had the same x's, then you should know that means that that's a vertical line, meaning your slope would be undefined. But you can plug it in, and that way you'll see that 0 would be on the bottom, and then that means your slope would be undefined. But in this case, that one was 0. Number 15, you have negative 12, 11, and negative 6, 7. Nothing is the same, so I'm plugging into my formula. We're going to say 11 minus 7 over negative 12 minus a negative 6. Keep in mind, these two negatives will make a plus. So 11 minus 7 will give you a 4. And negative 12 plus 6 will give you negative 6. Reduce all fractions. So use your ABC button if you need to. Type in negative 4, ABC 6, and you would see this reduces to negative 2/3. All fractions must be reduced. Okay? If not, I will take off. And then lastly, 16, 17, and 18, we're going to be graphing. All right, so number 16, we're gonna graph, and it says in the instructions, give the x and y intercepts and the domain and range. So we're going to graph 16, which is 3x minus 4y equals 4. So first, let's put it in slope-intercept form. That's how we were showing you in class. We're going to move 3x over by making it negative. So that'll be a negative 3x, bring down my plus 4. And then I'm going to divide everybody by negative 4. And so y equals a positive 3 over 4x minus 1. Those two negatives make a positive. So our slope, this is m, this is our slope, is 3/4. And negative 1 is what we call the y-intercept, okay? So we're going to put our first point, this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis, on negative 1 on y. So that would be here. Making it big enough for y'all to see. And from that point, I'm going to show my movement in yellow. I'm going to rise 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to run to the right 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where my next point would be. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to rise 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Run to the right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where my next point would be. Now, you only need 3 points to get credit. So you could just connect those 3. But if you would like some points down here on the left side, you would simply go back to that y-intercept. Go down 3 lines, and I would go to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that point would be here. Once you have at least 3 points, connect and put arrowheads on it so it looks like a line. Now, we mentioned finding the x and y intercepts. So you know the y-intercept, that's negative 1, okay? But finding that x-intercept, because if you look, it does not cross directly at this point right here. And I'm going to put just like a little dot there. It's not directly on 1. It's a little off of 1. So you would need to find that fraction. So you're going to let y be 0. So if you have the equation 3x minus 4y equals 4, and I let my y be 0, that means this is gone. So you have 3x equals 4, and when you divide by 3, x is 4/3. So yes, that is that is slightly over 1, so that's where we're crossing on the x-axis at. Write it as an ordered pair. You would say 4/3, comma 0. Keep in mind the x number would be that 4/3. Your y, you got to let it be 0. So if I have a blank out beside this graph that says give me the x-intercept, this is what I need you to put in the blank for the x. Now for the y-intercept, if there's a blank there for that y-intercept, write it where you can see it. You already know the y-intercept is -1. So if you want to do the let x equal 0 and solve it, that's fine. But you can literally tell me what that point would be, which would mean that the x is 0 and the y number would be the -1. Okay? So in this particular part, I do want to see you write them as an ordered pair. I didn't ask you to write that y-intercept as an ordered pair at the beginning, but right here is the only spot I do want to see, you writing it with 0, okay? Now, we also talked about domain and range. And with our lines that are diagonal, the domain would be -infinity to +infinity, and the range would be -infinity to +infinity. It's on the left just as well as the right. It is up just as well as down, okay? (17) Your equation is 2y equals -x. So let's get y by itself. We're going to divide by 2. So y equals -1/2 x is your equation. So -1/2 would be our slope. And it's not a plus or minus number out here. So your y-intercept would be 0. Okay? So we're going to put our first point in the origin at 0. And from that point, because my slope is negative, I'm going to fall down 1 instead of rising. So I'm going to go down 1 line, and I'm going to go over to the right. I still run it right, 2 lines. And I put my point. Down 1, to the right 2. You also can go back to the origin to 0, and you go up 1 and over to the left 2 if you want points on that side as well. Because they should diagonally line up to form a line. Once you have at least 3 points, connect, put arrowheads on it so it looks like a line. Keep in mind, we talked about this one day this week. When you have a negative slope, your line, when you start on this side, it is going to be decreasing. It's going down. Okay, so keep that in mind. It can't be going up. It has to be going down because it's negative. The intercepts here, you can look at it. You don't have to plug in 0 for x or for y because your actual starting point we used was 0, 0. And that would be your x-intercept would be 0, 0. And the y-intercept would be 0, 0 because that's the origin. That's the same point on both axes. Keep in mind, this is the y, this is x. That point is where that line crosses on both of them. So that would be your intercepts. It would be at the origin at 0, 0 on both. And that domain and range would be -infinity to +infinity for both of them. Because you're on the left side just as well as the right side for the domain. You're on the top just as well as the bottom for the range. And number 18. You have y equals 5. So that is a special line. You would go to the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the only way to go through that point without touching X, because it does not have an X, is to go straight across horizontally. Okay? That is a horizontal line. All right? So when we look at intercepts, like X-intercept, you would tell me none. It doesn't cross X. It would never cross X. It doesn't have one. So you would say none. But the Y-intercept would just simply be at 5. Okay, it would simply just be 0, 5, because that's where it's crossing the y-axis. Now for the domain and range. Domain, is it on the left and the right side? Yes. So that would be negative infinity to positive infinity. But our range is only going to be, when I go up and down, it's only going to be right here at 5. So our range is one number. It's just 5. It never will be any other number for y other than 5. Okay? Now, I could ask these special equations, these special graphs in words. What if I ask you to graph the equation of, well, let me say it like this. What if I ask you to graph the equation that's going to go through the point 3, 4 with an undefined slope? Okay? If I ask you to graph the equation of the line that's going to go through the point 3, 4, but it has an undefined slope. Obviously, I did not give you an equation. You're going to have to take that point 3, 4. So you would start at the middle and go to the right 3, 1, 2, 3, and go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where that point is. And if I want you to go through that point with an undefined slope, then I'm simply asking you to draw a vertical line, because undefined slopes are your X-only lines. So that's what I'm asking you if I have that on test. And I could possibly give you words instead of an equation. I could also take that same wording, and I could say, and I'm going to do it in red, give me the graph of the line that's going to go through the point 3, 4 with a 0 slope. So we are still at this point 3, 4, but if I said 0 slope, you would simply go horizontally. Okay? So I did that one in red. So kind of, make sure you understand wording. I could just give you just a random point and ask you to draw a line. If it's undefined, we will go up and down. That's what I have in green. That's your vertical line. If it is a 0 slope, then you're going to go horizontal. Okay? That is possible. And that's pretty much it. I think you're going to have probably the same amount of questions on this test. I think you might have 4 graphs. I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4, but they're very similar to what you have on 16 through 18. Please, please, please watch this video over and over. Rework the review sheet. I think this will be an easy test. It's not hard material. It's not as challenging as Chapter 1's material. So I'm really expecting good grades on this particular test. But we will answer any questions you have on tomorrow morning.